My mother had just finished her second round of chemo and came to my engagement party wearing her wig. The door to the private dining room swung open, but it wasn't a hotel waiter, it was Ethan's assistant, Vivian. Behind her trailed several co-workers, each balancing plastic canteen trays of leftover cafeteria food. You could still see scraps of half-finished meals clinging to the plates. Ethan says the project budgets are tight these days, Vivian explained sweetly. These dishes are the premium specials the kitchen staff usually save for themselves. I asked the aunties to set them aside just for tonight. I spun toward Ethan. He kept his eyes on his phone. Vivian's right. The company is struggling, the future Sterling needs to show she understands. Vivian lifted a glass of baijiu and glided over to my mother. Auntie, I hear your treatments have cost Ethan a fortune? This toast is for you, thanks for raising a daughter who knows how to seize an opportunity. I raised my hand to slap her, but Ethan caught my wrist in a vice-like grip. Sophia, he said, voice iced, touch Vivian and this engagement ends right here. Before we continue, subscribe to this channel and comment where you're listening from. My father's hand shook as he accepted the glass. Xiao, your mother can't drink. I'll take it. The fiery liquor brought tears to his eyes. Under the table, my mother squeezed my hand. It's fine. The food looks okay. Ethan flung my arm away, sneering. I knew you'd be reasonable. Vivian threaded her arm through his, tears appearing on cue. Ethan, did I do something wrong? I only wanted to save the company money. She grabbed a handful of the cold leftovers and pretended to force them into her mouth. Ethan yanked her close. Don't degrade yourself. He turned to my parents. You probably don't know this, but in the early days I couldn't even scavenge leftovers. If tonight's meal offends you, Xiao and I can call the whole thing off. My mother burst in. Oh, a coughing fit, blood dotted her lip. Daddy dabbed her mouth, frantic. We're happy, as long as the kids are happy, Vivian beamed and shoved a plate of rubbery shrimp at him. Then eat up, uncle. I shot to my feet just as the door opened again. The hotel manager rolled in a gleaming trolley of steamed lobster. Sterling, your main course. I exhaled, maybe he hadn't sunk completely. Ethan spun the platter straight to Vivian. You've worked late all week, you need the nutrition. Everyone else, enjoy your dinner. I knocked the chopsticks from my father's hand. Ethan, you feed my parents scraps and give your assistant lobster? He scowled. Sophia, when did you become so materialistic? What matters, lobster, or me? I helped my parents up and paused at the doorway. In my world, nobody insults my parents. Ethan, we're done. Behind me plates shattered. Sophia, you'll regret this. I took mom and dad for hot congee to settle their stomachs. When we reached Harborview, our suitcases lay strewn across the flower beds and my mother's pill bottles glittered on the pavement. I sprinted to the door, the keypad had been changed. Daddy clawed through the luggage. Xiao, your mother's targeted cancer meds are gone. If she misses tonight's dose, I called Ethan. Vivian picked up. Ethan's in the shower. Lost your backbone since this afternoon? Ethan's voice drifted over. Who is it? Just a telemarketer, she chirped and hung up. Mom crumpled onto a bench, writing. I hammered the door. Ethan, open up and hand over the medicine. After 10 minutes the lock clicked. Vivian stepped over my suitcase, jangling my car key. Company car assigned to Ethan. Want it? Beg. I lunged, she shrieked and stomped, grinding the pills into powder. Sophia. Ethan burst out and kicked my leg. You dare hit her? Vivian dove into his arms sobbing. I was only trying to fetch the medicine for you. He stroked her hair, then smirked at me. Vivian thinks of me first, unlike so. Me people throwing their fiancé weight around. I laughed, half hysterical. I spent 3 years in that basement with you, landed half your clients, and now I'm throwing my weight around? Vivian tore herself away. It's all my fault, I'll leave right now. Ethan grabbed her and roared at me, see? Vivian always puts me first, while you just take. 2. I stared into his eyes. So you think I'm after your money? He was silent, then snorted. Your words, not mine. Mom convulsed and fainted. I snatched the car key, but Ethan slammed the door shut. Apologize to Vivian first. Vivian offered a cup of warm water. Maybe some water will help Auntie feel better? Mom was unresponsive, tears streamed down my face. Let me get her to Eastbrook, please. He didn't budge. Say sorry. Watching Mom's lips turn blue, I bowed to Vivian. I'm sorry. Only then did Ethan lift the glass, pinch my mother's nose, and pour. She choked, coughing up a spray of blood. Panic finally broke through his ego. He sped us to Eastbrook. In the emergency bay a doctor tore into me. You force water a stomach cancer patient? Her esophageal lining is shredded, she's hemorrhaging. Daddy sobbed, her special medication, it was lost. Vivian whimpered, I only tried to help her take it. I seized her collar. You tampered with her pills? Ethan shoved me back. She was being kind. Stop seeing malice everywhere. When the procedure light flared red, I sank onto the corridor floor. A nurse bolted out. We're out of Rh-negative blood. The last unit was signed out by Sterling, for his assistant. I raced to the third-floor ward and found Vivian lounging within 4, scrolling on her phone. Give that blood to my mother, I pleaded, kneeling at Ethan's feet. She's dying. He raised an eyebrow. That's how you plead? I swallowed every shred of pride. Sterling, please. Ethan softened marginally. Vivian's a little dizzy. Apologize properly and maybe she'll agree. Vivian stuck her foo. Tea out, tripping me. Kowtow first? I pressed my forehead to the icy tiles outside the resuscitation room and whispered, I'm sorry. Without warning she yanked out the 4, blood spattered across the floor. Oops, clumsy me. I dropped to my knees, frantic to scoop the spilled plasma, but Ethan caught my wrist. Don't be filthy. I'll think of something. In that abyss of despair someone lifted me to my feet. William, counsel from the law firm, handed a fresh bag of blood to the nurse, then spun toward Ethan and produced a document. Per the prenuptial share proxy agreement signed by Rowan, the 45% of sterling she held in trust for you is formally reclaimed. He glanced at Vivian. While I'm here, Lane, your embezzlement is fully documented. Ethan's face strained. What shares? William smiled. The proxy share agreement you asked Sophia to sign, memory failing? He steadied me as I swayed. President Rowan, everyone has waited a long time for you to take the helm. The resuscitation light snapped off, the doctor flashed an OK sign. I gave Ethan, ash-gray and slack-jawed, one last look, then accepted the blazer William offered. The overhead bulb burned steady green. When they rolled Eleanor out, her complexion was still wan, but her breathing had leveled. The doctor pulled off his mask, stern yet gentle. Bleeding stopped, but the insult was massive. Absolute rest and top-tier nutrition. 10 minutes later and even the gods couldn't have saved her. I clasped Mom's cool fingers, tears arriving late and hot. Not from self-pity but from the aftershock of nearly losing her. William waited in respectful silence. When my shoulders stopped heaving he passed me a thick folder. President Rowan, complete copies of the proxy share agreement, the email trail proving you anonymously fed every core project these 5 years, plus the recent wire logs showing Sterling and Lane whisking company money offshore. I drew a chilled breath and took the file. E-paper was cold, my heart colder. Hospital security and Williams people invited Ethan and Vivian to the vacant room next door. When I entered, Ethan was pacing like a caged wolf, Vivian huddled in a chair, chalk white, every trace of smugness gone. Sophia, what the hell is this? Shares? Is William bluffing? Ethan lunged for control, but panic cracked his voice. I ignored him, eyes fixed on Vivian. Executive Assistant Lane, or should I say Ethan's secret CFO? You funneled over 20 million from project accounts. Evidence is ironclad. Talk to me now, or wait for the economic crime unit? Vivian's head jerked up, she looked at Ethan, lips trembling, speechless. Ethan's complexion turned livid. Sophia, quit the scare tactics. Sterling is mine. Yours? I finally met his stare, a glacial smile tugging my lips. Need reminding? 5 years ago, when your first startup collapsed and you had nothing, who emptied her savings and first-round windfall to bankroll you, because she believed in your dream? Who signed your precious proxy agreement to protect your fragile pride and stayed in the shadows drafting every strategic move? I advanced step by step while William fanned the documents like playing cards. I coined the name Sterling. I wrote the core pitch for our first blockbuster product. I called in favors from my family to land Johnson, the client you begged on your knees. Ethan, without Sophia you'd still be eating instant noodles and some rental. From day one the majority shareholder and soul of this company has been me. You were merely the CEO I hired. His pupils quivered as the black and white truth hit him, his mouth opened, but no sound emerged. The door swung wide. Several board directors entered, followed by a uniformed officer from the Economic Crimes Division. Sterling, Lane, the officer said, badge gleaming, we've received a sworn complaint and verified evidence. You're wanted for aggravated criminal breach of trust. Please come with you. Vivian shrieked and nearly folded to the floor. Ethan spun to me, eyes blazing with disbelief and fury. Sophia, you'd actually send me to prison? 5 years together? I cut him off, the word tasting rancid. When you let Vivian humiliate my parents with leftover cafeteria food? When you kicked me aside for her? When you pried my mother's mouth open and forced water down her throat, almost killing her? When we needed Rh-negative blood and you gave the last bag to a con woman pretending to faint, where was your together then? Each syllable left my lips quiet, honed, and iced. There's nothing left between us but due process. Police led the ashen pair away, William followed to handle formalities. Director Lee, an uncle who'd watched me grow, sighed and stepped forward. Sophia, those two turned the firm into a cesspool, major projects are frozen. Everyone is waiting for you to steer the ship. Through the window the sky was already paling. Uncle Lee, please line up the best 24-hour care team for Mom. Then alert every department head, 10 a.m. sharp for an emergency video conference. Under top-tier care Eleanor improved day by day. I spent daylight untangling the corporate disaster, nights reading aloud to her in the ward. Arthur finally stopped sighing. Occasionally he crowed, I always said our girl had chops, she was just letting that punk Ethan think he mattered. A week later the detention center rang. Ethan requested to see me. I went. Across the glass he looked gaunt. Sophia. I was wrong, so wrong. Vivian poisoned me, kept saying you were after my money. I lost my head. Call off the case, please? I can't lose the company, it's my life's work. You loved me, you can't watch me lose everything, can you? I regarded his performance with untroubled silence. At last I lifted the receiver, my voice eerily calm. Ethan, you've misunderstood 3 things. First, this company is the child of my heart, not yours. Second, I no longer love you. From the instant you chose to sacrifice my mother, every bond between us was severed. Third, I will not withdraw the suit. The law will decide your sentence, exactly what you and your thoughtful assistant Vivian deserve. When I finished, I cut the call clean and stood up, walking away while he stared after me in despair. 1 month later, Eleanor was discharged and convalescing at home. I formally returned as majority shareholder. Acting with lightning speed, I purged Ethan and Vivian's remaining lackeys, steadied the wavering morale, and personally salvaged the marquee project they had almost sabotaged. Afternoon sunlight poured through the floor-to-ceiling windows of the CEO's office. After signing the last document, William stepped in. President Rowan, the verdict is in. Ethan was convicted of criminal breach of trust, 7 years. Vivian, as primary perpetrator, received 10. Most of the diverted assets have been recovered. I nodded, glanced at the once-cherished photo of Ethan and me on the desk, and calmly dropped it into the trash. My phone pinged, a text from Mom. Xiao, I'm simmering your favorite soup tonight, come home early. Reading it, I let out the first genuine smile I'd worn in ages. Reclaiming the president's chair was far more than moving into a bigger office. The wreckage Ethan and Vivian left behind proved worse than feared, key staff paralyzed with anxiety, 2 critical projects frozen after funds were siphoned off, creditors' calls ringing non-stop. My opening offensive targeted finance and human resources. With William and board elder Uncle Lee behind me, I formed an internal audit task force and scoured every ledger. Simultaneously, I sat down with each department head. Inside the conference room, facing several uneasy directors, I dispensed with pleasantries. We all know what happened these past months. I have only 2 questions. 1. Do you still want to build something worthwhile at Sterling? 2. Do you believe ICA and lead us out of this mess? Technical Director Old Joe spoke first. President Rowan, the day you walked back in, our whole engineering team breathed easy. If you hadn't overruled everyone back then and backed my RD vision, Sterling wouldn't exist today. I'm with you. The rest quickly chimed in. Candor and accountability knitted frayed loyalties back together. While stabilizing internals, I had to fix the knottiest problem, cash flow. I mortgaged the downtown condo my parents had set aside as my dowry, sold the car I adored, and funneled every personal dollar into corporate accounts to pay urgent supplier invoices and salaries. That single gesture inspired the troops more than any rousing speech. They saw an owner ready to share both risk and reward. Next, working almost without sleep, I overhauled the project blueprint Ethan had shelved and led the team door to door to court investors and partners his arrogance had alienated. When I bowed apologetically and laid out our revamped plan to Johnson, whose support I had originally secured, he sighed, Sophia, I invested because of your competence and integrity, not that boy Ethan. The project stays funded. Hard going, but step by step the rusted corporate machine creaked back to life. One evening after work I returned to Eastbrook for a follow-up exam and to visit a hospitalized director. At the corridor's end I spotted an unexpected figure, Vivian's mother, haggard and stooped, clutching medical reports while pleading with a doctor. I meant to walk past, but she spotted me and rushed over. "President Rowan, please. Show mercy." I frowned and stepped aside. She sobbed, "Vivian's father's kidneys are failing, dialysis keeps him alive. The money she brought home all went to his treatments. Now she's in prison and his medicine is running out. I know Vivian wronged you, but..." Something clogged my throat. Did I hate Vivian? Absolutely. Yet faced with a desperate old woman, I couldn't manage a cruel word. I hesitated, out my checkbook, wrote a figure, tore off the slip, and handed it over. "This isn't forgiveness, just humanity. Don't come to me again." 5. She didn't take it, she simply stared, then crumpled to the floor, wailing into her hands. I laid the check on the bench beside her and walked away. I pitied her plight, but I hadn't caused it, my kindness needed edges. Months later, Sterling not only stabilized, under my lead a new flagship product soared, and the firm's valuation eclipsed its previous peak. I threw a victory banquet for every employee and partner who had slogged through hell with us. The hall brimmed with survival euphoria and bright confidence in tomorrow. Uncle Lee raised his glass, eyes shining. "Xiao Xiao, you're stronger than you know. If your father could see you tonight, he'd burst with pride." I clinked his glass, smiling. Yes, I was no longer the girl who hid behind someone else or bartered self-respect for love. Mid-celebration, William leaned close and murmured, "Ethan has requested a final meeting before transfer to Eastbrook next week." My smile unwavering, I acknowledged another toast, then answered softly, "Tell him no." Between him and me, nothing remains to say. Life, at last, was utterly calm. On a sun-drenched weekend afternoon I sat on the balcony with Eleanor in a wicker chair, reading her light news aloud. Color had returned to her cheeks. In the kitchen Arthur hummed tunelessly while tending a pot of soup. My phone lit with a headline, "Former tech star Ethan formally incarcerated." I flicked it away unread. "Xiao Xiao, what would you like for dinner?" "Dad'll cook whatever you want," Arthur called, poking his head into the room. "Anything you make is perfect," I answered, smiling. I set my phone down and took Eleanor's warm hand in mine. The nightmares of the past had finally drifted away. The betrayals, the humiliations, the desperate struggles had all hardened into the concrete beneath my feet. Under my steerage, Sterling had not only regained its strength but had also entered an unprecedented fast lane. I jettisoned Ethan's short-sighted, quick profit mania and re-anchored the company around solid tech innovation and humane management. The firm felt born anew. I founded an employee emergency relief fund, scrapped the empty wolf culture overtime rules, and rolled out a more efficient, flexible schedule. The truly talented veterans once squeezed out by Ethan and Vivian were promoted again, morale soared to an all-time high. The market answered in the plainest language possible. One niche product line we'd carefully cultivated, lauded for flawless user experience and reliability, saw snowball. Quarterly sales rocketed exponentially. A national network even ran a special segment hailing us as a breath of fresh air in tech. At the victory banquet I stood on stage looking at every sincere face below me. I didn't waste words, I simply raised my glass. "This toast is for everyone who didn't abandon Sterling in its darkest hour. This is for us. Sterling's glory belongs to each of you here." Applause thundered. I saw tears glinting in the eyes of many longtime engineers. In that instant I knew we had truly come back to life. On an ordinary workday a letter arrived from Eastbrook. No return name, but I recognized the handwriting. I almost tossed it like spam, yet some whim made me tear it open. It was pages long, the script veering from frantic scrawl to neat lines, betraying a mind in turmoil. 6. Ethan offered no fresh excuses, nor did he mention Vivian. He rambled instead through our garage startup memories, sharing 1 cup of instant noodles in a basement, trudging across town begging for capital and hearing only no, sprinting through empty midnight streets after landing our first PO. Now, he said, he had nothing but time to remember and regret. He confessed he'd been spellbound by vanity and flattery, mistaking the brightest jewel for a common stone. Every night, he wrote, he relived the engagement. Tea dinner, Eleanor's bloody cough, me on my knees gathering plasma bags, then woke drenched in cold sweat. The letter ended, "Xiao Xiao, I don't ask your forgiveness. I only want you to know I've paid with my entire life. May you be happy, you deserve it." I read to the close without a single ripple inside. Those once searing loves and hates now felt like scenes from someone else's movie. I tore the pages into thin strips and dropped them into the waste bin. He had indeed paid, but the price had nothing to do with me anymore. My happiness was no longer connected to him either. In autumn I took Eleanor and Arthur on a long journey, fulfilling mom's dream of seeing Arai Lake in Yunnan. Under the sun her color was good, wrapped in a brilliant ethnic shawl. She laughed while Arthur fumbled with his phone to photograph her. "How's this angle?" he muttered, shuffling backward, and the sight was so tender it hurt. I watched from a step away, my heart filled with a calm, overflowing joy. I blocked every work email for the trip, handling only the most urgent pings. I realized life holds things worth guarding that are bigger than grinding ambition, and I finally had the strength to guard them steadily. The weekend after we flew home, I keynoted an elite industry forum. Industry titans and investment sharks packed the audience. In a crisp white suit, I calmly shared Sterling's rebirth and my thoughts on tech's future. When I finished, applause rolled on and on. At the reception afterward, people kept approaching to trade cards and ideas. I answered with poised confidence, my gaze steady, my speech unhurried. For the first time the admiration around me sprang not from my former label as Ethan's fiancée, but simply from who I was, Sophia, captain of Sterling. Uncle Lee walked over, champagne in hand, and tapped my glass, pride shining in his eyes. "Girl, seeing you like this, makes me so happy." I smiled. "Thanks, Uncle Lee. The road's still long." When the event wound down I stepped onto the terrace alone. Night wind brushed my face, the city glittered below. I suddenly recalled a despairing night a year ago when I'd knelt on freezing Eastbrook tiles, convinced I'd lost everything. Now I stood here with a sturdier company, warmer family, a stronger self. Those calamities I thought unsurvivable had become the forge that tempered me. I won't thank the suffering, I thank only the me who refused to surrender. My phone buzzed, a message from Arthur. "Xiao, is the forum over? Mom simmered soup, come home while it's hot." I replied with a beaming emoji, pocketed the phone, drew a deep breath of crisp air, and walked lightly toward the elevators. Downstairs my car waited, home, and its steady light, lay ahead. Sterling's reputation had climbed to a new crest. We had won not only market share but respect. In a government smart city tender, our far-sighted blueprint and rock-solid tech beat out several established giants. We took the contract. After the signing ceremony the official in charge raised his glass to me. "President Rowan, your proposal was a revelation, not just the technology, but the human care and social conscience inside it. That's rare." He paused, then added with feeling, "I read the old stories about your company, rising from the ashes can't have been easy. Hold on to that original heart." "Thank you for trusting us," I said, clinking glasses with him. "We won't let you down." My chest felt weighted with a quiet, almost solemn pride. This was no longer just commercial success. It was the deeper satisfaction of watching my values recognized and my ideas accepted. I had finally nudged Sterling back onto the orbit it was always meant to travel, and then sent it sailing toward an even vaster sea of stars. Life settled into a gentle, reassuring rhythm. Eleanor's checkups kept returning better numbers. The doctor laughed and called it a small medical miracle, the result of high spirits and meticulous care. Arthur picked up his calligra. PHY again. The house often smelled of fresh ink, and he proudly mounted the 4 characters "Tranquility conveys you far" on my office wall. One crisp weekend morning, sunlight pouring like warm honey, I walked with Eleanor through the Harborview Gardens. She stopped suddenly, watching a cluster of children chase each other across the grass, and said softly, "Sophia, I don't long for anything else now. I only hope you'll meet someone who truly knows how to love you, and one day have a home of your own, bustling, happy." 8. I slipped my arm through hers and rested my head on her shoulder. Once, a remark like that would have felt like pressure, even irritation. Now it felt like nothing but love. "Mom, don't worry." I gazed at the rising sun, calm and steady. "I believe the right person will appear at the right time. But right now, I'm fine. We're together, that's enough. I no longer need to rush into something just to prove a point or hold on to an illusion." Eleanor patted my hand, smiling. "True. My daughter is stronger and clearer-sighted than anyone. I'm fussing over nothing." The most influential business magazine in the industry, Insight, decided to feature me on its cover. We scheduled the interview in Sterling's new Sky Garden boardroom, city spires glittering beyond the glass. The reporter was a sharp, efficient woman. She barely asked about Ethan and Vivian, instead she honed in on my management philosophy, the pivotal calls that turned the company around, and the hurdles and opportunities facing women leaders in tech. "President Rowan, many call you the textbook rebound story. What do you see as the single most critical factor in your comeback?" I thought for a moment, then answered, "Authenticity. Facing failure without blinking, measuring myself honestly, treating colleagues and staff with genuine respect. I used to try to play a role people expected. Now I know real strength, and real charisma, comes from being exactly who you are, and owning it. After the interview, the photographer posed me for the cover. I wore a simple white shirt, stood before the floor-to-ceiling window, eyes calm, a faint, self-assured smile brushing my lips. Weeks later the issue hit newsstands. There I was, composed and steady-eyed beneath the headline, Sophia Sterling, the power of authenticity outshines all glitz. In the clear, crisp heart of autumn we held Sterling's annual family day. I rented a wide stretch of meadow on the city's edge, no speeches, no tedious programs, just grills, lawn games, and easy laughter. Employees showed up with spouses, kids, and picnic blankets. The grass was a moving collage of shrieks, tag games, and frisbees. I spotted old Joe, our tech director, frantically fanning smoke over half-charred chicken wings, his face smeared with soot. Nearby, a knot of young engineers blushed crimson while their parents teased them about still being single, and everyone roared. I drifted through the crowd with a plastic cup of fruit juice, pulled into group selfies and conversations every few steps. One mother, a kindly woman from the north, clutched my hands. President Rowan, thank you. My boy says he's happy here, that he sees a future. That matters more than any salary. At that moment, surrounded by ordinary, sparkling life, I felt a happiness sturdier and warmer than any billion-dollar contract. Isn't this exactly the picture I carried in my head when I first started out? A community where everyone could stand tall, feel respected, feel hope. As the sun slid westward and the gathering wound down, I climbed a small hill, megaphone in hand. No speeches needed today, just enjoy yourselves. To every Sterling family member, thank you for giving our people the backing to chase big dreams here. And to every Sterling employee, your hard work is what lets your family smile like this. May all of you know happiness at home and in life. Applause and whistles erupted, golden light brushing every face. I was among the last to leave. Watching the crew pack up, the park returning to quiet, I breathed in the smell of grass and snapped a photo of the dusk sky. I posted it, my first Instagram update in ages, with a simple caption, "Ordinary days, seasoned with earthly fireworks, are the truest kind of perfect." Likes and comments poured in. Among them, a new friend request blinked, introduced by the Insight reporter, would love to ask you about building communities for women in tech. I smiled, tapped accept, and slipped the phone into my pocket. The afterglow faded, indigo night crept upward, the first stars already winking. Tomorrow the sun will rise as always, and Sterling and I still have a long, bright road ahead. Challenges may come, but right now my heart is calm, full, and certain. Thanks for listening to today's story. If you liked this video, please like and share it with friends. We look forward to your thoughts in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more great stories. See you next time.